I'm the Regional Manager for the Southern Region for the Department of Finance. It really probably doesn't really indicate much of what we do. The Department of Finance is a reasonably large department. I look after several areas of it. What do I actually press? So what we do, from my area, there's a number of things that we do. We actually handle works procurement, and we also handle goods and services procurement. So works procurement deals with items such as maintenance of government buildings, and that could be breakdown repairs or routine maintenance. And so we actually have offices here in Albany, have offices in Bunbury and one in Narrogin, which cover under the Southern Region. We also have, I think there's about 18 regional offices throughout Western Australia, in the Pilbara, Kimberley and things, but you're not really interested in those. We handle minor works, capital works projects. So there's quite a lot of capital works happening, things at schools, down on the foreshore, the entertainment centre, that's a capital work, and it was a work undertaken by Department of Finance, or the division that sort of operates it is BMW, or Building Management and Works. And we also provide a lot of advice, planning and do a lot of knowledge sharing as well. Under the goods and services side of things, I have a team of 3 people here in Albany, and I have 3 in Bunbury that actually get involved with agencies to do their procurement. And so in most cases, most agencies have a threshold of about $20,000 where they can go and do their own procurement. After that, they would come and see my team, and we would assist them in procuring items of over 20,000. And in some cases that might be group buying arrangements. Otherwise it may be agency-specific contracts for things. So we do a lot of work for health down here. We do a lot of work for DEC, and a number of other agencies as well. We do a bit for Bruce. If Bruce is looking for some consultants, and it looks like it's going to go over $20,000, then we would get involved with Bruce and his team in putting together a tender and encouraging local people to actually bid. I mentioned group buying arrangements. We have about 6 group buying arrangements in place for the Great Southern Region. I'll talk about those a little more, but we also provide a lot of advice and planning to agencies. Basically all government agencies, apart from GTEs or government trading enterprises, pretty much use our services. So government trading enterprises are things like ports, Western Power, Watercorp and the Public Transport Authority. We don't get involved in doing their work. Other agencies with specific responsibilities such as main roads. However, we do a lot of maintenance for main roads on their assets, but we don't touch their roads. That's their main and core business, and so we don't get involved in theirs. Also with the Department of Transport, we don't get involved in marinas and those sorts of things, but pretty much everything else. So schools, prisons, police stations, courthouses, all of those sorts of things we're involved in, and we also assist a lot of agencies. So for schools looking to put a cleaning contract in place or a security contract in place, if DEC's looking at buying bulldozers, we actually handle the water bombing contracts, so the Dunn's Aviation contracts, which is about a $15 million contract. We actually handle that on behalf of DEC. They're the principal to the contract, but whereas works slightly differently, the Minister for Works is, which happens to be Minister Simon O'Brien, is the principal to the contract. So, in brief, how do agencies actually purchase? Well, in a lot of cases on the works side, because we operate under the Public Works Act, and the principal to all of these contracts and to any of the arrangements is the Minister for Works, most of the premises come through our service alliance, and we have an alliance, and I know that there's a number of contractors here who actually do work for us. So breakdown repairs, routine maintenance. Routine maintenance is things like cleaning sumps and gutters, servicing air conditioners. Breakdown repairs is anything that worked yesterday, doesn't today, forms a breakdown repair, and that goes through a call centre, and we have a list of nominated contractors, which is quite wide and diverse, premise by premise. And we also conduct a lot of tenders and quotes for work, for minor works, general restoration, capital works. We work within the same thresholds as everyone does, and I'll run through those on this slide. So under the goods and services, the common use arrangements, and we have six common use arrangements, there's common use arrangements which are actually operated out of Perth, and sometimes they come under a little bit of fire. However, most of those common use arrangements actually do have regional suppliers nominated on them. So there is the ability with a lot of those common use arrangements that there are regional businesses nominated on those. And the other thing is that in some cases, not all of them are mandatory, particularly in the regions. They may be mandatory in Perth, but they're not necessarily mandatory in regions. There are a couple that are, but a lot of them actually aren't. And in addition to that, as I said before, we've actually set up a number of group buying arrangements. We have about 6 in place down here for stationery and copy paper. And I might say that as a result of that group buying arrangement, the health department that actually used to centralise most of their procurement through common use arrangements in Perth have actually moved well in excess of $250,000 of their local purchasing into Albany and surrounding areas. So that's the sort of thing that a group buying arrangement can do. We have them for food and groceries. We actually have 2. We have one in the Narrogin area and also one in the Great Southern. Hardware, cleaning and cleaning products, storage and retrieval of documents, and also courier services. So they're the sorts of things that we assist agencies with, and there's some of the group buying arrangements that we have in place right at the moment. Value for money. There is actually a policy which deals with value for money. It's a state government policy. And in a lot of cases, what agencies are looking for is not just the lowest price. Yes, in a lot of cases, price is very important, but particularly with a lot of the goods and services that's provided to government, a lot of the process doesn't just focus on price. There's a lot of non-price or qualitative criteria where we ask people to actually tell us how they're actually going to service this contract and cover things like, have they got the right insurances, have they got the right licences, so the governance type things. It's also about relationships, and particularly on the work side of things, where we have a service alliance, which we're incidentally about to look at renewing fairly shortly, because it's been in place for quite a number of years. Some of the thresholds have moved, so we want to actually bring that up to date. So we'll be looking at doing a briefing session with a lot of local contractors. The other thing is, sustainability and environmental and economic considerations are also given in relation to a lot of those non-price criteria. So it's not just about price. If there is no qualitative criteria, then it's just about price. It's a head-to-head scenario. But obviously also with our works side of things, some of the things that we look at in relation to capital works is buildability, so making it relatively easy to build, not trying to build monuments to people, and also trying to minimise maintenance, because maintenance is a huge issue for the state government assets. And some of the purchasing in the regions, some of the benefits of that is obviously establishing really sound relationships, looking at value for money, the wider benefit to the regions and to Western Australia, because the buy local policy, and it's, I know that's actually created a little bit of interest in recent times. It's actually made the front page of the Albany Advertiser recently in relation to buy local, but also talking about the Royalties for Regions scheme. And I must admit, the Royalties for Regions scheme is actually delivering what it said it was going to do. It said it was going to deliver infrastructure into the regions, and it is. And in a lot of cases, there are a lot of local people benefiting. In that particular case, there was a couple of examples given there where a local contractor didn't actually get it, didn't win two particular contracts. There was one in Katanning. Unfortunately, the article didn't say that that particular contractor didn't actually tender on that job. So that's the reason they didn't win it. In relation...
Excuse me, are you referring to Woolworths Enterprises?
Sorry?
You're referring to Woolworths Enterprises?
Yes, I'm aware you were there, so...
Yeah, but it wasn't Katanning.
So, yeah, well, there was two mentioned. The other contract is Denmark, and another organisation. I mean, we ended up with about 8 tenders on that. The most competitive tender was actually from another company. It's been awarded, so I can say who it is. It's BGC, and it was bid out of Bunbury, not out of Perth. So it's actually BGC Southwest, and who operate regionally. They couldn't ask for regional business preference, because what happens under a works contract, the buy local policy deals with, in works, it actually deals with 2 portions. 5% benefit up to a maximum of $50,000 is given for a regional business, and then an additional 5% is also given for regional content. So in a lot of cases what happens, even though a local business may not win the contract, there's a lot of work that goes to local businesses as a result of them nominating local subcontractors to carry out a lot of the work. So be it a Katanning-based or Bunbury-based or Andorra-based business, or Perth or Albany, they actually normally nominate a lot of local subcontractors, and on that basis they can actually claim up to another 5%, $50,000 maximum for the use of local contractors.
Sorry, I just have a question. Do they nominate subcontractors?
Yes.
I don't know who these companies nominate, but if they nominate them, is there anyone that supervises whether those contracts then actually go to local subcontractors?
Yes. We normally ask for evidence that because by filling out the buy local or the local content thing, that actually forms part of their contract. And so it forms part of the contract. They've made a commitment that they're going to use those local contracts, and then we ask for evidence that they normally do provide that.
It doesn't, because, so we are a subcontractor, and we'll do work anyway for the job. But what happens in these tenders? People tender, and then there's a lot of negotiations afterwards, because everyone rings everyone trying to say, well, who got the job, this, that, the other. So what they put in the tender documents and who that's getting to the tenders.
I can tell you with the projects that I administer, we make sure that the people that actually that nominate, we would ask them to demonstrate that they're actually using them and provide evidence that they do. And I've probably mentioned half the bits and pieces on this slide now. In relation to regional price preference, there's a business and content preference. They're the two 5% that I was actually talking about. With goods and services contracts, in addition to the buy local policy, any contract that's worth over $750,000, it's a requirement for state government procurement that we, and this is goods and services only, it's not works, we actually include an additional 20% for local content. So that effectively gives local contractors or local suppliers about a 30% benefit. So, but that's based on contracts over $750,000. One of the best ways to find out about what is available for tender within the West Australian Public Service is Tenders WA. It's an online web-based tool where most agencies, if not all agencies, advertise their tenders. The Department of Finance, BMW, and government procurement, we advertise everything on there. In fact, we stopped advertising in local papers some time ago. And so everything that we do, and most other agencies do, goes up on Tenders WA. We actually can, if people are interested, provide a selling to government 2-hour session, which actually assists people. We've run them before, we've run them on behalf of chambers of commerce and those sorts of things as well. There's a lot of information available at www.finance. We have, as I say, we have local regional based offices, and we've got one here in Albany on North Road on the corner of Barnaby Drive. So it's Unit 1, Number 2, Barnaby Drive. There's a phone number there, and anyone that would like to come in and have a talk or have a talk to my team there, we'd welcome you to come in and have a look. Thanks very much.